Welcome to episode number 18 of the Q&A show. You like bacon?
I love me some bacon. But right now I'm trying to figure out why the dog is licking my foot.
I think it was the bacon.
It was probably the bacon. Dogs love bacon. You love bacon.
I love bacon. Bacon strips are for dogs. So that's a processed red meat.
Processed red meat.
We're going to talk about that today, right?
We're going to talk about red meat.
Okay, I'm Dave Dreas.
I'm Scott Emick.
We are here answering your questions. If you can do us a huge favor before we get to the ending here, subscribe to our YouTube page.
Please.
If you'd like to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, and Twitter, you can feel free to do that. So what's going on today real quick?
Well, Stacy sent in a question about red meat.
Okay.
She said she's heard that red meat is bad for you.
Okay, I've heard that a lot.
Yeah, there's a lot of demonized media that demonizes red meat.
Right. Geez, how do we even tackle that question?
Well, this is real science heavy, so we gotta hit it with science.
Okay, so what is it that's bad about red meat? What is the general consensus?
First of all, I think you need to divide the meat into two categories.
Okay.
And one is our favorite category. That's the processed red meat.
Bacon.
That's bacon.
Bologna.
You see that?
Yes.
The dog is just like bacon. His ears perk up. Bologna, Spam, which I know is dear to your roots there in Minnesota.
Yes. Spam Town, USA. Austin,
right.
Minnesota.
Yep. Those are processed.
Yes, and think of like going and getting processed meat. So anything that's been altered chemically, nitrates,
added
preservatives, stuff like that, that's going to be more of a processed meat. Think of like the second category,
which is the unprocessed. That's just basically your steak, your meat on the bone.
Cutting that right off and then
preferably not cooked with too much temperature because
it's got to be done right.
Yeah.
If you cook you know what? We need the proper way to cook a filet.
Yeah, actually, that's going to be in another episode. Also, don't eat your meat well done.
Come on.
I mean, come on.
Do us all a favor. That's not even meat.
No, it's not. It's you're going to cook all the nutrients out of it, which is a tendency we have in this country.
Poor form.
Yeah.
So two kinds, processed, obviously
and then
unprocessed.
processed.
They're different, vastly different. I think, this gets into the conversation about processed anything.
Sure.
Processed foods, processed meat.
And then you can back it up to how was the cow raised?
Right.
Was it grass-fed?
All that. Yeah. Exactly. So
obviously a grass-fed cow is going to be better for you than,
Right. Now, is it fully researched that if you were to eat processed food, like you're going to die at a younger age because you'll get cancer or your cholesterol will be high? I don't know. But ultimately, they're two vastly different things, and they actually, if you were to break them down individually, processed meat's probably going to be where you're going to hear more that it's the processed red meat's going to cause all these other issues.
Right.
More so than kind of just a natural.
Even though much of this research is observational study rather than
actual study.
Actual clinical studies.
Which creates that correlation does not always equal causation.
Yeah. So we need to talk about this a little bit. So in any correlation causation, how do you want to frame that?
What was one? Let's think here. So
you got to break this down. It's really important.
I think if I say this right. So the crime rate in New York City is up.
Right.
But so is the sale of ice cream. Then
ice cream must be responsible for an increased crime rate.
Correct. Does that make any sense?
No, it doesn't.
Right. But let's have this conversation then. The reason why a crime rate is up is because it's summertime, and the reason that ice cream sale is up is because it's summertime.
Right.
So just because they're both up, ice cream does not necessarily cause crime. It's because the temperature could possibly be causing it. So that's where the correlation doesn't always cause causation.
Yeah, that's our brilliant example.
That's pretty good right there.
It's actually a good example. I like it.
So correlation doesn't always cause causation. Correlation and causation is not always mixing. So what then, because they're essentially saying if you eat red meat, you're going to raise cholesterol levels, which isn't necessarily true. What are some other things that are brought up?
Well, okay, so I think it's better almost to approach this from what you're not getting rather than what you're getting. Okay. Because, if most of the observational studies, like for instance, there's this, you'll hear a lot of times that there's a risk or an increased risk for colorectal cancer.
Right.
And, the meta-analyses of these of the data would suggest that the increased risk is like extremely low for men, and it's not even existent. It's not a significant statistic for women to even bring up. Yeah. So, you know, I think you have to look at what red meat has for your diet, you know, from a nutritional standpoint that you're not going to get elsewhere.
So it has copious amounts of vitamin B.
Yeah, B12 specifically, which you cannot get through plant sources.
Right. Vitamin D. I think is another one.
Yeah, iron.
Iron is another good one.
Zinc. Selenium.
Yep. All phenomenal sources coming from red meat. Much harder to get. Obviously, if you eat like your vegetables and stuff, it's going to contain a lot of those as well. But ultimately, great source of good nutrients.
And protein.
Yeah. And that's something we harp on a lot when it comes to someone trying to, you know, get optimal body composition is you got to have enough protein in your body in order to maintain that muscle mass. Or if you want to try to put on muscle, you got to have enough so that you can actually grow.
And there is no better source of protein than red meat. Like even when you start factoring in the other, you know, white meat, fish,
all that stuff. So let's ask the question then, you know, is it bad for you? I don't think, you know, it's not. This comes down to everything we talk about though is don't eat red meat 29 days out of 30 in the month.
Yeah, have a side of bacon every day for breakfast.
Right. So, I mean, I think we're to that point now in society where everyone's having bacon, so I think we should be a little bit over this whole red meat's bad for you type thing. But, you know, we're clearly not. People still have those issues. And, you know, I think it just comes into where this is coming from could be fueled more from a vegan source perspective.
Or just from a predisposition.
Yeah.
You know?
And
of
which
any
is
kind.
Like a confirmation bias.
Confirmation bias.
Yeah.
Explain to everyone the confirmation bias.
Let's have that conversation.
Okay.
I would say the Michigan Wolverines example, but that's just reality. They're the best team to ever suit up and play.
All right.
Go Blue.
Yeah.
So, like, for example, let's do like, I don't know, some stupid team like the Seattle Seahawks.
Okay, I thought you were going to say the Colts, and then I was going to.
So like Seahawks, so confirmation bias is you could say like, you know, Russell Wilson could do something wrong, but in the eyes of the Seattle Seahawks people, he does nothing wrong. They have the preconceived bias
that he's the best.
That he's the best quarterback.
Yeah, quarterback in the NFL.
Yeah, like they're gonna have that preconceived bias. You could show them stats on Tom Brady, all his Super Bowls, all his championships.
You always love to bring up Tom Brady.
So, but then people in Seattle might say, well, Russell Wilson's better because they might find one stat where in third quarters with 10 minutes left to play.
And then that stat becomes the focus of all.
becomes a focus. So that it's just like extrapolating data from red meat. Then that stat becomes, well, we'll avoid all the other stats about Tom Brady being awesome, and we're only going to highlight, you know, between 8 and 10 minutes left in that third quarter, Russell Wilson's hasn't thrown an incomplete pass his whole career. He's the best ever to play. So they're already going to have their predisposed or that confirmation bias that he's the best ever. There's nothing that anyone could tell a Seattle fan that would change their mind.
And this happens in a lot of studies.
Just about everything. This happens. Well, this
but
happens
a lot of
in life
studies
too.
because the study is actually funded by an organization that wants to produce or wants to produce a particular outcome.
And people, and this goes for people that are anti-GMO. They're going to claim that people that are that Monsanto's funding it. This is going to go for people in this example with red meat. You're going to have, like I said, like a vegan source being, here's all the reasons why it's bad. So this goes for what we had last couple episodes, cupping. A lot of the China studies would say it's 100% effective, 100%. Even though it has nothing, even though it's not. So that taints evidence or that taints science, and that's where it kind of becomes untrustworthy.
And we see this this is not just a vegan versus meat eater thing. This happens in every area of nutrition and science.
Totally. So, but getting back to it, let's kind of make it a vegan thing.
Okay.
A lot of times you're going to see, and this isn't against anyone who's vegan, have at it. Just make sure you're getting protein from other sources. Yeah. But this would be if you have an issue with animals being slaughtered and killed, no matter what we try to say, you're not going to change your idea.
There's a predisposition.
Yeah, you have your predisposed idea of saying it's bad. So you could pull out all the data showing how bad meat is because you're already predisposed because you don't want animals to be murdered.
Right.
Right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
So, and it has nothing to do, I'm not trying to get into that debate, but that's where that predisposed
that's
idea.
That's another episode.
Yeah, but that's where that predisposed idea is going to come from. So anything we would say is not going to change that.
Right.
So when you start to take a look at science, and we'll link some things below, red meat's not bad for you.
No, I mean, it goes back to protein source and, protein is such an essential building block. I mean, in so many areas to muscle growth, to building a healthy immune system that you need. And this is the issue that so many vegans face. The struggle is getting that protein source from, someplace other than meat.
Like a pea protein.
Right.
Now, here's
and it's
the question.
difficult.
Do you have a confirmation bias on red meat?
I don't know that I eat as much as I did. I don't think so. Yeah. I mean, I love red meat.
I love red meat.
If it's prepared nicely, and I'm talking, anywhere between bloody as hell and medium rare.
So not well done.
Hell no.
We had that combo earlier.
Yeah. Well, there's also a problem with high temperature in cooking any kind of food.
Correct.
Meat has been demonized by high temperature, and
causing more, which can cause cancer because of even grilling can cause cancer.
But grilling can cause and so don't use high heat. Maybe you slow roast some.
Never should you use high heat.
No.
Be a chef.
Be a chef. That's what we've learned today.
The sear. You're on timeout still.
Yeah, you're on timeout, buddy.
Your confirmation, your correlation is not as causation. I didn't even say it right.
Pizza and climate change, was that? I don't know.
All right. I think that answers the question.
I think it covers it.
Be smart about how much dress meat you eat. Know that it's got great nutrients in it. It's going to provide you quality amounts of protein, and have at it.
And drop your questions, your comments in the box below.
Cool. Thanks for watching. Follow us.
Twitter,
Instagram,
Snapchat,
Facebook. Do it too. Appreciate it, guys.
We'll see you next time.